Amazing. That's all I could say right now is I'm speechless.
Well, I feel so honored. We just had a tremendous conversation with three individuals who are walking the walk, right? They are just so inspirational, so caring, and um, a true so much humanity was shared with us today. I feel truly honored.
Yes, I'm saying I'm speechless, but Suraya and that program was amazing. Or, it just is just amazing to see the transformation and to see how much they've grown. I mean, we didn't meet them when they entered, but I can just see how much they were just modeling kind of what we're all like looking for in our own lives and how we want to be to others. And
Right.
they've just kind of had a chance through the theater, Shakespeare Theater, to really grab hold of parts of themselves that they wouldn't have never known. And I think it informs them of that piece of them that they didn't know. And it actually, for me, I saw that they were inspired by the parts that they didn't know. Mm-hmm. And allowed them to take the courage to do amazing work inside and outside now that they're in society, contributing back.
Well, and so inspiring too, when you consider the success of this in some ways very simple project of bringing Shakespeare into the prison system and putting on plays, and then also, the creation of parallel plays, and how successful it has been for the individuals who have since returned to the outside. And as you mentioned, and they now model the by giving back and being of service in their lives currently. So really great. It's and such fun people. This is a great episode. So enjoyable.
Yes, I hope you enjoy it, and please leave your comments in the comment section always. Yes. And we're going to just enjoy it.
Yep.
Thank you. Here we go. See you later. Bye. Hello, welcome to Sasvy Real Raw Talk. I'm Margie Torres with my partner producer, Kristen Brown. And we are really excited today to talk about our topic, which is moving Shakespeare, reducing recidivism. And we have our guests here today, Suraya Keating, Joey Mason, and John Windham. And I will just give a brief introduction for all three, and then we can just start the conversation off. So welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
Suraya Keating is an actress, registered drama therapist, and registered expressive arts therapist. She is the Shakespeare for Social Justice Director for the Marin Shakespeare Company. Since 2005, Suraya has facilitated the growth of their Shakespeare in Prison Programs, which includes the performing of plays as well as original theater inspired by Shakespeare themes. In 2015, Suraya founded and began directing the Returned Citizens Theater Troupe, in which individuals who have returned home after long periods of incarceration create theater-based, meaningful themes and experiences. Deeply aware of the healing power of life stories, Suraya has written and performed 6 autobiographical solo shows and has directed many others in the creation and performance of life story theater. As a perpetual student of improvisational theater forms, Suraya is delighted to work with two playback theater troupes in the San Francisco Bay Area, the Bay Area Playback and the San Francisco Playback Theater. Joey Mason became addicted to meth in 1985. He was married to his first wife, had a home and a great job. His criminal behavior followed, and by 1991, he was sentenced to 1 year in prison. And upon release, Joey stayed clean for 8 years, but relapsed. This time, he lost his second wife, house, and job, and was given 25 years to life under the 3 strikes law for nonviolent crimes. Joey worked hard inside prison for 20 years. He feels it paid off for him because he has been in recovery for over 22 years. And currently, Joey works for the Alameda County Probation Department as their first community outreach worker who has lived on the other side of the probation system. John Windham was incarcerated for 30 years and has since returned home for 2 years. He is the co-founder and CEO of We All We Got JMW Foundation, which assists the formerly incarcerated with housing, employment, and a sober living environment. John is a member of the Returned Citizens Troupe Theater, RCTT, an activist and community leader. So, welcome everyone. I'd like to start off the conversation with Suraya. And Suraya, could you please expand on your involvement with the Returned Citizens and provide some background about the Shakespeare program you've been involved with?
Sure, thank you, Margie. And it's great to be here with everybody, see all your faces. So yeah, I started working with Marin Shakespeare Company at San Quentin State Prison back in 2005. At that time, that was the one and only one California prison where we had a Shakespeare program. And then we, after a few years, began incorporating life story theater where people got to share stories from their lives theatrically. And that felt like it just took our work to the next level in terms of getting to know each other in a vulnerable, authentic way. Around, I think, 2011 or 12, we started getting more and more support for our work, which has been led by the amazing Leslie Currier and Bob Currier of Marin Shakespeare Company. And we expanded to quite a few different prisons. We're now in 14 prisons. But just to back up a little bit, being inside San Quentin for so many years and seeing the power of what coming together as a theater troupe can do and the community, like this loving community it provides, and also a place where people can really express themselves truthfully. Leslie, Leslie Currier and I really felt strongly like we wanted to create something on the outside that would do the same thing, because people who are coming out of incarceration are facing a lot of challenges, including just stigma that is there and carrying this kind of prejudice, this negative prejudice towards people who are coming out of incarceration. But we had felt the power of what theater and community can do on the inside. So we wanted to see if we could create that on the outside. So back in 2015, voila, we and a group of amazing returned citizens we know, like John here and Joey, and others, founded the Returned Citizens Theater Troupe. And we've been going strong ever since. Both John and Joey have been involved in that for a few years. I can't remember how many years each of you, but we have found that it's been such a gift and such a kind of sanctuary. I mean, I'll let John and Joey speak for themselves what it is for them and other amazing work that they're both involved in with people getting out of prison. But I hope that gives you an idea of what we're up to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So John and Joy, if you'd like to share your experiences with the program and your journey back to being a returned citizen, that would be great to share with us.
We're gonna let the young man start it off.
Oh, wow. I'm flattered. Thank you, John.
I see you blushing too. Look at your
Yeah,
cheeks.
don't worry. No, it's just, I'm white. White people blush. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? You all know my name is Joey Mason. A friend of mine, Luke Pageant, when I was in San Quentin State Prison, I got there in 2009. Right away, Luke challenged me to get involved with Shakespeare. I didn't think I could remember lines. I didn't think I could do anything, but I knew that I was willing to be open and honest and transparent. And that's what I did have going for me. And so I fit right in, and I was given over the course of 40 months, because it takes us 10 months to rehearse each play. So I was involved in 4 plays. 12th Night, Mary, let me see, what was it? Hamlet, Merchant of Venice, and Merry Wives of Windsor. So each time I asked Suraya and Leslie, make my roles more difficult. Let's challenge me. So we did that. I also am a musician, so 12th Night was perfect. I got to play a guitar. I got to be festy and play the guitar and whatnot. So that kind of was a good fit. I just feel like it helped me grow as a human being and helped me because to do this kind of work, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to put yourself out there. You can't worry about what anybody's going to think about this, that, and the next. You just got to put it out there and hope for the best. So each play, excuse me, let me turn this off. Stop phone. Hold on, folks. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, so each play takes 10 months. We get 1 performance. That's it. They invite about 200 people that come from the street to come in. So for that one day, we're like celebrities. You know, everybody wants to know everything about everything. And it's just that one time, it's like, yay, it's over with. I can purge all these lines out of my head. But at the same time, you're sad because it's over. But not too long after, we're back at it again, another 10 months to prepare for the next play. So like I said, 40 months of plays. The final play, I'll say, I'll be honest with you and say that Merchant of Venice was the one I did not like. I was a bully to pick on Shylock, who was, that back then it was like, let's make fun of Jewish people. I didn't really care for that, but it's a play. So that was challenging. And then Merry Wives of Windsor, Suraya and Leslie, I blame them because they challenged me to be Mrs. Quickly.
To put on a dress.
I put on a dress in prison.
Thank you, Suraya.
And of course, I got many dinner invitations afterwards. No, I'm kidding. That's a joke. It's a joke. But yeah, so I had to really get vulnerable, put on a dress, and play the part. And it's not easy playing a woman. I'm gonna be honest with you. To play a woman, like for real, not like yeah. So anyway, why are you laughing, John? Anyway,
because I know.
Yeah. So basically, what it did was each week we gather and we usually do a check-in, so everybody kind of expresses what's going on. Maybe some of the things that are going on with us during the time we do the plays could be stuff going on with us inside, the emotional aspect of it. Return Citizen Troupe. So I get out. I don't catch wind of the Return Citizen Troupe till I think about a year after, no, maybe about 6 months, 8 months after I got out. When I found out about it, I'm like, I want in. The work is awesome. And so I got involved. And then they told me, oh, we're going to pay you for it. What? I would have done it for nothing. Because what we do is we take our Return Citizen Theater Troupe to schools and different places to, to share, what we're doing, because it's usually based on, our plays are usually based on real life situations, things that have happened in the past or whatever. And so I love the work. I don't like COVID-19 because I'm really not I'm not a fan of virtual. I believe honestly that theater is to be shared amongst each other in the same room, and because that's the beauty of doing theater, is being able to interact with people. And so I'm slowly trying to get back to that now that I'm a little bit more savvy with the virtual thing. So anyway, that's it. I'm done talking. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Anyway,
John,
sorry about that.
John, would you like to share?
Yeah. I laughed because it was seeing Joey in that dress that challenged everything as far as ego, pride, manhood, all those things inside of prison, right? And to see him on that stage made me want to get outside of my world, because I know in order for him to play that part, he would have to leave prison because there's no women in prison. And from that point on, I was in. I bought into it. I became involved in Shakespeare. We did Lady Macbeth, The Life and Death of Julius Caesar. Not only that, at the end of each play, we take themes and we write parallel plays. It could be whatever the theme was. It could be portrayal. It could be loyalty. It could be love. It could be whatever. And then we write from that, and then we perform our own pieces. But to get involved in Shakespeare, it truly took me outside of what was my norm. And prison is not normal at all. But you adjust. And to have something like Shakespeare, every time I went to Shakespeare, I was free. I wasn't in prison. I didn't have to be hard. I didn't have to be closed. I didn't have to be guarded. I was able to be completely vulnerable. And I heard about, I knew that Returning Citizens Troupe would be there for me once I got out. So when I came home, I ran to it. And I love being with my brothers because not only inside, when we talk about therapy, it's very therapeutic in getting you outside of yourself and having you tap into different feelings and different emotions and being able to use that in different characters. All your sum total of all your life experiences, traumas, pains, goods, bads, whatever, I'm able to transfer that on stage. So every day I went to rehearsals, not even just inside, but on the outside. When I'm excited about going, first being with the brothers and sisters, right? Because they family. But once I just having the thought of being able to release whatever it is that I'm going through, I think everybody should have that outlet, and especially for men and women coming out of prison, because like I said, prison is not normal, and our adjustment to the outside world is not normal. So we have some place with a sense of normalcy, and that is Returning Citizens Troupe. We return back to family. I miss that. I miss us not being able to be there together, to sharing them smiles, the creativity, just the creative juices that flow in the room when we do our check-ins or our daily assignments that Suraya creates. It truly gets you ready and motivated for the day and whatever is to come. So that's my story with getting involved with Returning Citizens Troupe.
So Suraya, what you started this in 2005 with the San Quentin prison system. How did it actually like evolve into that form? Like, what was your whole process to even get connected with the San Quentin prison itself? And then what was your experiences when you first presented the concept of theater to the community inside there or in San Quentin?
Yeah, good questions, Margie. Thank you. Well, first, I'd like to say that, for sure, spirit was involved in all this and opening doors and making connections happen. That's my belief. But I do want to say I wasn't the one who founded the San Quentin prison program. It was Leslie Currier. So she and her husband, Bob, first started the San Quentin Shakespeare program in 2003. Okay. And they did that. She can tell you better, but they are very much community oriented, that they want to offer Shakespeare to all of the Marin community. And so they had been offering programs in schools with teenagers, community centers, and they thought, well, we want to offer it in prison too. This prison is in Marin County. Now, in terms of the evolution, what I experienced at San Quentin was what I've experienced on the outside too, with any kind of new group or new thing, where, at first people are like, what, Shakespeare? Huh? I don't know about that Shakespeare. Like, that's kind of weird, that old white dude. Like, what the hell can I connect with him about, right? I even felt that about Shakespeare early on in my acting career. I had like no interest in Shakespeare, honestly. It grew over time. So there was very small involvement at first because nobody really cared. I mean, a few people cared or we wouldn't have had a program. But when I got involved in 2005, we had a small committed group, including Luke Paget, who Joey mentioned Luke's name, one of our outstanding actors and role models. And so, to me, persistence and vision is everything. Vision is great, but persistence and consistency and just us showing up every week, we slowly built a community that had a kind of magnetism to it. We started sharing our work. People came to our shows, creating a kind of a good reputation, I guess you could say. The staff at San Quentin started liking we were doing it. At least some of them. I don't know what all of them think, but at least some of them, or we wouldn't be able to do it without their support. So some must like us. They do. So yeah, we went from this small thing that seemed, I'm guessing, weird, to this more not just accepted, but this almost a sought after group at San Quentin. And then me being a drama therapist and an expressive arts therapist, but drama therapy in particular always made me interested in taking the Shakespeare and making it personal and doing the autobiographical theater stuff. So that was part of my hope, was to always kind of move in that direction. And we at least in San Quentin, we don't have that kind of work in every single prison, but some of them. So does that answer your question in terms of how the evolution happened?
Yeah, sure.
Well, Suraya, I have a question.
Sure.
You would meet weekly, and so how long was the weekly meeting?
Yeah, each class has a 2.5-hour time slot, which at San Quentin, because it's a little more loose on the scheduling there, meant it was like a 2-hour class. People would arrive late. But at other prisons, our standard time slot is 2.5 hours. we have a few different classes at San Quentin now, although now everything's closed because of COVID. But yeah, we would meet, and like Joey said early on, we had these 10-month rehearsal periods for a Shakespeare show. Then we shifted that and rehearsed 7 months for Shakespeare and 5 months for what we called a parallel play, or a show inspired by Shakespeare themes. But yeah, we would meet consistently, and this is kind of going off on a little different thing, but you know, the people in our group were also part of what attracted people back, because we have just amazingly wise, vulnerable, authentic people who playful, talented. And so I think was part of the way we grew, is like, you know, when you meet people like John and Joey here and other just really deep souls, I would say, really deep souls. And those people in our group would, I think, be part of what lured newer people to keep coming back, because there was this family created by, you know, all these people supporting each other. I don't know, John or Joey, want to add anything or on that?
Yeah, like I said, I watched Joey, and everybody watched somebody. So it was always somebody that was watching, that was drawing people to Shakespeare, kind of like made it hip. And I think I don't think it was intended for Joey like to inspire nobody. He's too busy trying to focus and remember them lines to be thinking about anybody out there in the audience. But when brothers step up on that stage, it transforms people's thought and open up the possibility of them doing something outside of the norm. And Shakespeare is definitely that. It'll definitely challenge you in every way. Joey, you want to chime in?
Go ahead, ask your question.
How did you select which plays to do? How did you make
I was one of them ones, like, I just let Suraya know, whatever you need, I got you. Because there's always parts that people don't want to play and people don't stay in the group or whatever. So I kind of like take a role and be open to take anything else in case it needed to be filled in. But I did pick my part in Life and Death of Julius Caesar. I kind of liked that part. Suraya like gave me that part and I left it. I was Angus.
Yeah, and in terms of the plays, first we like to alternate between comedies and tragedies, sometimes histories. Those are like the 3 categories of Shakespeare plays. And then you often present like 2 plays to our group and say, we'd study them for a few weeks, like we study Hamlet and Julius Caesar, and take a poll of which play people would prefer that year. So we try to, you know, give a choice.
Well, what I loved about the whole process is we'd always do a read through. We begin to start reading whatever play we did choose. And at one point we had somebody who had a master's degree in Shakespeare language. And so she came to teach us, how do you play a part if you don't know what it is you're saying, and how do you say it? So that was like a learning experience in itself. And it's funny because for me, I had no idea about anything about Shakespeare. I mean, or any theater. I mean, I play music, that's it. I mean, I'm good. But one thing that was really awesome about before we'd start to play is Suraya and Leslie would explain what the story was about, and to the audience, because there was a lot of men in blue who had never experienced Shakespeare. And it's funny because I even learned more about what we were about to do. by hearing the story, hearing more of the story, like the big picture, right? So, and I was like John, I would always tell Leslie, I would ask them to pick a part for me, like pick something for me and make it harder each time. And so I exploded after Mistress Quickly. I said, I need to take a break. Thank you for a minute. That was, but you know, I needed to do what I needed to do, right? After 4 plays. But what I wanted to share was really funny is people thought, our fellow inmates thought that we were crazy because we would go out to the yard to rehearse our lines. So we'd be walking around the track and it looked like we were talking to ourselves. So people were like, hey, look at us crazy. Like, you know, you guys must be crazy. Yeah, we're crazy. All right. But anyway, so I just wanted to share that part because I just thought about that and it was kind of funny. So
yeah, I thought that all y'all was lost y'all mind until I realized what y'all was doing. I was like, man, this dude crazy as hell. They just walk around the yard all day, all night, in the morning, all night, grouping up, talking to themselves, right? And then I realized that, you know, I was started talking to myself and how people started looking at me, but you know, you only have time to rehearse. You know, you got the same 24 hours. And we wanted, like, I wanted to, all of us, that's what I loved about the brothers and sisters inside there. We really wanted to be the best at what we were doing. And we dedicated that time. And to hear people that went to many other Broadway shows of Shakespeare and have them tell us that we are the same, if not better, as those in the free world out there doing it for pay and for a career. That did it for me right there. Made me want it more.
Well, I just want to expand on that. And John, you're absolutely right. We had people that were Shakespeare critics that came to our shows. Leslie and Suraya invited many people from all walks of life. But it was amazing because they said that we weren't trained at what we just brought our hearts to the stage. And that's what made a difference for them, for us to see, you know, for them to see us do that. They said, hands down, because we didn't know any better. You know, it's not like we can go on YouTube and see how somebody played Julius Caesar or how somebody played a part of a play that we were already doing. We didn't get to see somebody else do it, to emulate or to try to, you know, we just had to bring ourselves to the table, which made, I mean, what else can we do? That's all we can do is bring ourselves. So
it seems like you had a little bit of leeway as far as like artistic expression for each of the roles. Is that true, Suraya? You just allowed them to be, allowed them to express who they are and where they're at in their process. Was that?
Yeah. Well, for sure, there was artistic leeway. And we always began each class with some kind of acting skill that was also a life skill, a human skill that invited play with how, you know, someone would express themselves within the part, or what qualities a character might have, or what struggles they might be going through. But yeah, we always, or I feel like I always seek to bring out what is inside of each person, like with Joey playing Mistress Quickly, the female character he's been talking about in Merry Wives of Windsor. Like how can that be expressed through him, through his genuine truth, but yet not be Joey exactly. So for sure, yeah, it's giving creative license. Because if John were to play Mistress Quickly, which would be lovely to see someday, if you ever wanted to.
John.
It would be a different thing.
Oh Lord. Don't do me, Suraya. I just watched Joey.
Okay. Well, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, and then sometimes when we would do our parallel plays, the people in our group who wrote shows, sometimes they'd want to direct their own shows, not always, but so others could be the director too. Yes.
And how many people to date have participated at the San Quentin?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure, Kristen. That's a good question. A lot, many hundreds, if not into the thousands at this point, because we have, I think when we're not in COVID, we were having 4 classes a week at San Quentin, including a veterans class, not of Shakespeare for the veterans, but of life story theater. But so at this point, given we've been there since 2003, yeah, it's probably in the thousands now of people who have cycled through our programs. So that's really exciting.
That's
I'm really interested in learning more about how you got even like from being just in the community in San Quentin to getting to a point of deciding to do the Shakespeare. Was it somebody else, or did you have to come to your own resolution about like committing yourself to this openness that you were talking about, Joey, even John? Like, what was it like to even like decide to do it?
For me, I was challenged to do it, and I believe, and John hit on it, getting outside my own self, doing something different, stepping up to any challenge that presented itself, of course, in a positive light, in a positive way. So I was inspired and challenged by Luke Paget to do the work. And then I saw the other men that were doing the work. And I thought, yeah, maybe I can do this. You know, maybe I can remember lines. Because I'm a musician, I play music. I'm not a lyricist. I don't sing. I mean, I can sing and I have sang, but you know, I just don't memorize lines like I have seen other people do. But anyway, the bottom line is it was a challenge, and I said, you know what, I'm doing this. You know, because, you know, I put myself in a box. When you have that addiction, you're putting yourself in a very, you know, a very small box, you know. And so I was clean and sober about 11, 12 years at that point. So I said, hey, you know what, it's time to do some different things here. And San Quentin afforded us that opportunity because the administration allowed Suraya and Leslie and many other people to come in and volunteer their time and their expertise to many different programs. You know, so Shakespeare was just one aspect of many things that go on there. So I mean, I really want to say that because that's what helped shape me as a person and prepare me for out here. You know, and Shakespeare was very much a huge part of that. And I thank Luke. I'll never be able to thank him enough for, you know, challenging me to do this work. So it was a challenge.
Did you encourage other people in the community to join, and then people didn't want to and others did? And like, was there a mixture of their willingness to do this, and you could tell, or, you know, what was it like to do that, like within the whole community there? Well,
most people were like, there's no way I would ever do that, especially the mistress quickly part. They're like, there's hell no. I mean, you heard John, hell no, right? But the bottom line is it did encourage other people to get involved because they see you doing it. They think, well, maybe I can do it. You know, I had one guy in particular said he couldn't believe I do what I do. And he got involved in another play. And he realized, and he's really good at it. He was really good at it. He was a rapper. So he knew how to remember lines. I mean, this guy was a natural. And he eventually got into Shakespeare. And Suraya knows who I'm talking about, Nate Collins. Mm-hmm. And he's a phenomenal actor. And John knows Nate. And So that's how other people got in. They saw another guy. They saw John. There's people that John inspired to get into Shakespeare. Like, well, if John can do it, I can do it. And then knowing John the way he is, he challenged him. You know, like,
there's Suraya and Leslie over there. They'll sign you up.
That's right.
So in listening to both of your stories, I'm struck by a couple of things that I grew up visiting my uncle in different facilities up and down California, and he actually was in San Quentin for some time. And he always struggled so much when he was out, and it really, he, in some ways, from my perspective as a younger person, it's like he felt most comfortable when he was within the system. And so I really am hearing the part about having community and outside as you return to return citizens. So I'm hearing both the sense of community that you have, and also you really have a strong, I also am hearing that you're both giving back in the work that you're doing. Was that inspired by your involvement with the Shakespeare program?
For me, Shakespeare was something else. I used to kick them books up. I used to be in a hole and they gave them books. I used to slide them as far as I can, just like a contest to see how far I can slide this Shakespeare book up the tier, because it was like foreign language to me. It was foreign until it was broke down to me. Then I understood it. And then you have these women, these ladies, these queens, Suraya and Leslie, they make you better, right? Because we understood, first and foremost, a lot of us wasn't seeing family in the inside. So when people came inside, like Suraya and Leslie did, it made me appreciate them. And it made me want to give back in the way that they gave to me, because they were my freedom. In prison, I was free when I was with them and dealing with them and around them. So when I came home, I wanted to return that. So I tell Suraya and Leslie all the time that they made me better. If you can come where no man wants to come, where no woman wants to come, and be with us in a place where we're supposed to be alone, and to have someone show that they care enough to, because it's not accepted, and I know it's not, because if Suraya was my wife or my family, I would be asking her, what the hell are you going to prison for with them people? Why would you go in there? And so despite whatever they had to face, I've seen free people bring in their husbands, their wives, or whatever, and people still don't get it and still don't understand. So if they can put up with that, in their own home with those that's close to them because they care enough to be there for us, I have no right to get out and not return that to my community.
Yeah, John, you said that so well, because I feel the same way. I feel like, because of the service that people provided to me, the volunteers, especially Leslie and Suraya, I really felt compelled for many years to educate myself as best as possible so that when I got out, I could be of service. My whole thing is about being of service. And fortunately, I was able to get this job, which affords me that opportunity to be of service every single day, 5 days a week, 7.5 hours a day. We don't get the full 8 hours, but then again, it's county work. That's okay. But the bottom line is I get to take all my skill set, everything I learned inside for 20 years, and I get to apply it every single day at this job. And then I also volunteer my time. It's like when I was asked to do this. Anytime I'm asked to do anything that's going to shed a positive light,
We can't say no.
I really can't. No, I don't even have to know everything that I'm going to do. It's just, hey, Suraya says, hey, Joey, you want to be part of this? Soraya's asking me to do it. Oh yeah, we're going to do it. Plain and simple. No questions asked.
Right.
And so James and I bring in a restorative justice class. That's the program we started at the juvenile hall in Alameda County. And also I volunteer to go into Marin County Juvenile Hall, where I spent many years as a child. That was back when they locked you up for running away, and truancy. I was really good at that. I didn't go to school and I didn't stay home, but that's another story. But so anyway, yeah, for me, it's always going to be about service, because I took so much from my community. I burglarized over 50 houses, and I can never repay back those people, but I can be a living amends. And so that's the connection to service for sure.
For me, it's stuff like this, right? I don't know if I could. This is what I do. This is Stephon Clark that was murdered by the police officer in Sacramento. This is his center. And this is a piece that someone brought in yesterday to show how Stephon was murdered and just shot in his back. So I'm out trying to make sure that the next interaction with a person of color with a police officer don't end in that way. So I'm active in my community, not in my community, but communities abroad. And like I said, it's a piece. I take the piece of Suraya, the piece of Leslie, and everybody else that came in the inside and that actually took the time to show that they cared and that we mattered. Once they showed me that I mattered, they say Black lives don't matter. They have Black lives. Say, no, my life matters, period. You know what I mean? And Suraya and Leslie showed me that. So I'm out to show other people that their lives matter. Fair exchange ain't no robbery. It's really not. Fair exchange has never been a robbery.
Can I add something to this conversation? One thing that was always very clear to me, working in prison and also worked a lot with youth at risk, was that the people that I met in prison would be so much more effective at working with youth at risk and people getting out of prison than me, a white woman, and so I see. That's what I think. Not that I can't do anything. I don't think that, and I have worked a lot with youth, but we one dream that both Leslie and I had was always to try to give opportunities for people like John and Joey here and others to work with youth who had similar backgrounds and similar struggles, and little by little, some of the schools we work with are opening to that. But because for a long time there's so much prejudice against people on parole. We work with high schools that won't let us bring returned citizens to their students, which I think is crazy. That's changing. Yeah. That's changing. But that was a real thing. Like the principal was like, no, we can't do that, blah, blah, blah. So that's something I feel passionately about, and so happy to see, John and Joey doing their thing and being of such beautiful service.
It's so funny because that's what I did. I was the manager of 3 after-school programs. Not only myself, but it was like the whole organization of Higher Ground was all formerly incarcerated, right? So now the principals coming to me, I had from 1st grade to 9th grade. I only been out of prison maybe 2 months, right? And I'm on 3 school campuses, everything that I dreamed of doing. And I'm on these school campuses, and now these teachers, these kids is cussing. I'm in Oakland, right? And these kids is cussing the principals out, threatening them, scaring the teachers. But they didn't understand how I can get them kids to do everything I wanted them to do as soon as I asked them. No question, no nothing, right? And so they kept running to me. They ran out of money. And then they found the money because they said they needed me back on that campus. But the thing is, they needed me until they was to find out that I was a felon. They never knew. I stayed on call. They went and found money and to continue to have me at that school. Them kids is like, I'm gonna act up. I'm gonna act up unless John is on the campus. I don't care about the principal. I don't care about none of that. But the thing is, I just gave them what Suraya gave me, right? That attention, right? Not only that, I was that kid that was getting in trouble on that school campus. I was that one that was getting kicked out of school, sent to principal's office, and going to the juvenile hall because they say I was a bad kid. No, I was a kid with ADD. Damn it, you didn't feel like messing with me, and didn't have the time to, right? So now going forward, I love going into them environments and being there for them kids, because in a way, it's like I'm able to go back and give myself what I needed when I was a child every time I go deal with one of them children. But if they knew I was a felon, none of us would have been on that campus. Sad.
Well, what's interesting is my oldest childhood friend, she runs the NA meeting inside of the Marin County Juvenile Hall. She invited me to be a speaker. And what's interesting is that those kids looked at us like, we didn't know anything. Like, who are these old white people here talking to us? And then when they found out that both Lisa and I were both in the same shoes that they were in, we had both been in that same juvenile hall when we were kids. All of a sudden, everything changed. And they can't wait when I come in and Lisa comes in, and I brought other people. I brought younger people who have gone through addictions and whatnot, so that they could be even more relatable to the kids. But yeah, I mean, it just, the fact that people realize that you've been through the same things that they've been through, all of a sudden it opens everything up. Like John was saying, it opens them up, and they do listen. And it really doesn't matter how old you are, but when you're speaking truth, when you're speaking from your heart, and then also actively listening, being able to honestly listen without judgment, and to and not be all about opinions, there's a thing that no judgment, no opinion, and no advice. And that's a real big part of active listening. If they ask you for your opinion, if anybody asks you for their opinion, okay, give it to them. Oh, you're asking me for my opinion? Okay, well, I'm gonna give it to you. But other than that, that's how we keep the peace. And that's real. That's how we keep the peace amongst all of us, right? That's universal. So anyway, thank you, John, for sharing that. I'm glad. Yeah. And also, I will say one more thing. James and I, who's right over here, I'm gonna throw him in on this. Him and I both worked together with an organization called Real Choices, working with at-risk youth that used to come into San Quentin. And so we both have a lot of experience working with youth. So, you do what you can. You do everything you can do. That's part of the transformation. So.
Yeah, I'd like to add just a little bit here, which is one of the goals of the Marin Shakespeare program for me is to change perceptions about people in prison and change perceptions about people returning home from prison, because I think many people, it's changing, but many people have these stereotypes and pretty negative ones. And like John is, was sharing that example of like the school not wanting to work with someone because they're a felon. Like I hit that barrier again and again and again. And to me, one of the ways to shift perceptions is to get each other to listen to each other's stories. Because when we actually stop and we don't just say, oh, that person is a felon, we know nothing about them, but just have the label felon, we're not going to go very far in terms of really knowing them as a being. But when we take the time to listen to each other's stories and feel each person and the gifts that each person has to bring and what each person has been through, to me, that's true medicine. And that's what will change the world and change our social policies a little bit at a time. Because I know what, Joey and John can bring, but like school principals or whoever, have, well, there's probably other pressures they have, I don't know, but there's just these negative perceptions that to me is really something that needs to change.
So when John and Joey, when you were sharing it, you were speaking of kind of that somewhat almost instant credibility that you had with speaking to young people and connecting with them because of your own story. So Suraya, what was it like for you when you began the working at San Quentin? How did you kind of develop credibility and trust with the folks? Because as you mentioned, here you are, a white woman coming in to do, this project, and so kind of were there some challenges, or what was that process like of building the trust kind of necessary to do the work?
Well, I think for me, one key element of building trust is being kind and showing up and being authentic. And, there's always an issue called over-familiarity when you work at a prison, that we're not supposed to be over-familiar or share too much about ourselves with the people in our groups, to kind of keep it professional. And I try to do that, but there's also a fine line where I need to be authentic and vulnerable in order to build trust. And so, what I've tried to do is ride that line of being real and authentic. And I have plenty of my own pain and suffering and trauma in my own background that I think maybe made me more approachable in a certain sense than if my life had been perfect. That I can kind of, I've never been in prison. I have white privilege in many different ways. And I also have my own suffering, which I'm, somewhat vulnerable about as a way to both build trust and open up, others to share about themselves if they want. So I think that for me has been the kind of my approach is, number one, be kind, treat people like humans, be consistent, like keep showing up with care. And then 3, just be vulnerable, be who I am within the context that I'm working in.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I one thing I love about the work we have done in San Quentin and other prisons, and also with returned citizens, is I feel like there's a way in which, and it's not just the Shakespeare work, but any kind of intentional, vulnerable group work, like we've really created some amazing bridges across different differences, like different ethnic groups coming together, different people of different socioeconomic backgrounds, so many differences. I feel like there's been a real kind of like it gives me hope. It gives me hope to feel like what we've been able to do in the different groups I've worked with. So I think that's all I'll share on that. You know, if John.
I
Yeah.
will say something. Suraya always, she got this thing, right? She talked about how she beat. Look, I done seen this lady. People want to commit murder up in there, and she ain't never changed her tone. I was like, it's been a murder finna happen up in here. By the time they get through with Suraya, she done broke them down, right? I don't know what this gift is. She got this gift, right? That really calms a soul and a spirit. And that's when I understood where therapy came in at, right? Because I've never seen her angry. I never even seen her like get to that point. And it's like, I want to model that so much, because these people that she was dealing with and that she, could have really went there with, she just didn't. And I was wondering where she got that strength from. And I'm like, if this queen have that, I need that self-control too. So I watched her and I picked up on that. But she has a way of calming a beast. Let me put it that way. And see, that's it right there. See that smile right there? That's it. That's what she do. And it'll all be better.
Thank you, John. That's a high compliment. I don't know that it's true. I never get angry, but maybe you've never seen it.
We didn't see it.
I
probably did when you left up out of there, but I didn't see it.
I would say that one of the things that once men bought into the whole concept, they began to protect the program. And there was times when, and I don't know if John could speak to this, but there was times when we would take guys aside after our rehearsal and say, guys, you got to mellow out, because they weren't given, because we would be rehearsing lines and everybody's supposed to be quiet. Remember, Suraya, we used to always have that problem. Everybody's supposed to be quiet and support that person that's sharing or that's doing their lines. And sometimes that didn't always happen. So we'd have to like take the guys aside, especially the new guys, and say, look, this is not business as usual. There's a whole, set of, I don't want to say rules, because we were governed by constant rules, but, self-governing so that we could get on with the process, right? That was super important. So we would have to take these guys aside. And so, and I remember Luke would always support whatever Suraya. Luke was like our head guy. I mean, in my opinion, because he was so gifted, he was really awesome, and so he would always be the one that be like, "Come on, guys, tone it down." Suraya is trying to say something here, and so we protected the program, and we also protected the respect that she deserved. Yeah, absolutely.
So, how many of the people in the program were able to return back into society from, and versus a person who didn't? I mean, was it more likely a person in the program be able to graduate out versus someone who didn't participate in the program?
Well, I say for me, because we have to go to the board. A lot of us have to go before the board of parole hearings. And that's a whole process, right? But when they hear that you're involved in Shakespeare, they look at you different. They look at you, because I'm from a neighborhood. I started my neighborhood, my own community. I was full-fledged up in it, right? And so they have this perception that I'm a gang member, I'm a criminal, I'm a felon, I'll never, whatever story that they have, right? But they actually see that, that's not who we are. That's not who we are. And back to what we were saying about Suraya, it's like, man, they have a shield. They have a shield around them that they don't even know they have. When free people come up in there, we protect y'all with our life, because it's like we said, it's personal. You know what I mean? That become my sister now, my auntie, my neighbor. It's oh wow. It's a blessing though, to be able to have that, to be able to go to a place like that and have people in our life like that. I'm gonna see Suraya this week too, Suraya.
Oh, good. I look forward to that. Yeah, and I just want to echo what John and Joey are talking about is like the way the group does take care of itself. Like, yeah, I and Leslie or whoever was facilitating with me, and we have a whole team now, teaching artists. We are a part of it, but the whole group each contributes and keeps the integrity of the group. Like, that's essential. And people step up in leadership roles in so many different ways, even if it's not overt. It can be a behind the scenes kind of stepping up. So that's something so beautiful, seeing that happen, the group taking care of itself and each other.
Yeah, Suraya didn't get to see us take care of people sometime after the rehearsals and shows and stuff. I just decided to tell her later on after I got home.
Good to know.
No, you don't want to tell her in there, Joey. Like, oh yeah, we just had to slap this dude upside the head because he just wouldn't get it. Right? This dude is really crazy.
In the years of doing this, there are always going to be challenging group members or just personality stuff.
Yes.
Many different things that can arise.
So I want to answer back to the question. The majority of the guys that went through Shakespeare that I know of, because I was at San Quentin from 2009 to 2018, most every single one of those guys are out of prison, and every single one of them are successful, giving back in their own ways, whether they're drug and alcohol counselors, whether they're case managers for transitional housing. I mean, they're doing something to give back, which is amazing. So, we talk about the barriers of employment when you get out, because you got that stigma of being a felon. But I'm going to tell you right now, based on what I see, because I can go on Facebook and look at 100 guys I know that I did time with that are all successful, of all different colors, ages. So I think you had to have made the choice to want to change. And thank God for San Quentin affording you that opportunity to change. And these guys are all successful. So, I have a hard time having a bleeding heart for somebody that says, well, I can't, and I can't. Well, yes, you can. You can do this.
Yeah.
You just have to be willing to do it, period.
Like Shakespeare.
Whether it be Shakespeare or whether it be getting up on stage and singing like John would often do, because John's he can sing. There's people that can sing, he can sing. But I had to throw you under the bus there, John. Sorry.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I always appreciate getting hit by a bus, man. What size was it? Was it a little one? I did a yellow bus.
Yeah, I want to second that. John can sing, really sing, wow. And Joey can play guitar.
Man, look.
Nice. Yeah. I don't know. Like most everybody, I think, who's been in Shakespeare and gotten out has not come back. I know of one person who was I think he was 21 years old. He was in our group for maybe a year at San Quentin. Yeah, he cycled back in, but which didn't surprise me because he didn't have much time to to really
Yeah.
work on whatever needed to be worked on. That was the one and only
Yeah.
case where somebody cycled back in. But I think everybody else I know who's gotten out has stayed out.
Was
Yeah, my little
Savante a
protege.
lifer or
No,
did he?
No, he was a short timer in H unit. That was my little protege.
Youngster.
Oh, okay.
He was like
Alright.
21.
But he
Well-
was good. He was
Great
good,
guy,
man.
yeah.
But we just didn't have enough time. I think we had what 4 to 6 months with him, Soraya.
Very
Off and
short.
on.
Yeah.
If he would have been longer than that, he would have never returned to prison. I promise you.
Nope. Guarantee
Because
it.
he would have been around us and we would have rubbed off on him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Would have rubbed off. We didn't have that time to rub off. But as soon as he came back to prison, he came right back to Shakespeare. That I'll tell you something, right? He came back right back to the family and apologized. You know, took his lumps. But to get young, my thing is to get young people involved in that, especially from my community, because Shakespeare, what I learned about Shakespeare from Suraya and all the Shakespeareans, that every war and every battle that was waged, it was behind money, greed, women, or property, right? And it's the same thing in our communities. The difference is we use guns and they use swords and shields, right? So when I break it down to people in my community like that, that's like, it's the same thing. But you not being you acting. Because when we go out in the community, I'm going as Dooney, I'm going as whatever name the community or the streets have for me. I'm not going as John, the person that my mother raised, right? So now we get these kids to go. That's what I used to do. I was like, man, I can be angry. I can go through a wide range of emotions on this stage, and then go when I leave the stage and when I leave there, I can go back and be me. I don't have to act. I don't have to fit in anymore. And that's what those things, putting that dress on that Joey did. It gets you out your own way. It gets you out your own way. Even them having us doing a little funny stuff, man, I ain't finna be jumping around like that. Soraya, you want me to jump around and all that act stupid? I ain't doing none of that. Oh, I'm jumping around. Oh, it feels so good. Thank you, Soraya.
Oh yeah,
Right?
everybody
No,
be
for
a
real.
tree.
'Cause
Everybody
it's hard,
act like a
Joey?
tree.
We just standing there looking like, what the hell these dudes jump? Why they jumping around? And Soraya look at you like, well, you better start jumping and kicking your feet around and doing something crazy, because that's what they're doing right now, though. And you just get outside. Because I'm not saying I was hard, but I had a hard exterior. So when people see me, and I learned in Shakespeare about inflection, right? I didn't know that I was looking angry or whatever, or that people was afraid to approach me because of how I was looking. Well, Shakespeare made me go figure out how to get these looks, right? And how to get all these different characters. So it made me say, damn, I'll be looking like that all the time. I really didn't know. So it made me smile a lot more. Because, you know, like I said, I didn't even know I was looking like that until I started rehearsing and had to be angry and do all that stuff. I said, that's why my face feel like that all the time. You know what I mean? But Shakespeare opens up a lot of doors. Sure. This is what I want in Shakespeare right here.
I want to share one thing that he just reminded me of. There was times we'd get so crazy up in that rehearsal room. The officers would come in thinking that we were having an all-out riot in there, you know, bouncing and kicking and doing all there was, you know. And then after a while, I mean, there was times when they would we'd make all the noise and stomp our feet, and they'd just be like, oh, that's just Shakespeare, and they wouldn't even bother coming in. But every now and again, because they could hear us all the way outside the walls, and it was just it was one of the rare. You're not going to be able to act like that out on the yard. And I mean, even the officers looked at us crazy when we would rehearse fight scenes out on the yard. You know, for the play where people were looking, the officers, everybody just, I think they thought we needed some kind of therapy. Well, we were in therapy called theater therapy, you know, but anyway, I just wanted to share that. I just remembered that when John was talking about that.
That's great. So we're almost, Suraya said she needed to leave at 2:30, but I wanted to just ask one more question about like to maybe wrap up and leave some your words of wisdom to the world, because they're going to see this video. It's our intention. What would you like to say to them about being a returned citizen, and what would you like them to know or not know about your experience, or the label that they seem to have on incarcerated people?
I'll say this. One of the things we talked about was we're not the worst thing we've ever done. That's number one. Number two, the harm that we cause to one another, it doesn't necessarily have a penal code that's attached to it. And so, you know, the harm we do, you may not get a prison sentence behind it, but it's still harm. And I'm really all about, I want people to know that for those of us that, or for me, that has gone through what I've gone through and the harm that I caused, that I'm really about do no harm. That's one of my, that's like one of my key mantras, do no harm. That means in all areas of my life. And that's super important to me. And so I would say to anybody out there, you know, quit, you know, be mindful about maybe the people you might be hurting, and they might be the ones that you're closest to. So, you know, examine yourself, you know, and try to make some necessary changes so that we don't all continue to go out there and do harm to people. Anyway, that's it for me.
I would say, you know, find something to believe in. Find a purpose. Find a reason to exist, right? Find something to indulge yourself in that's positive, because positive begets positive, and negative begets negative. And for us, I'm like, we're more than what we've done. The crime that I committed, or I was with when it was committed, when I was with the guy that committed the crime, it was like maybe 15 seconds. 15 seconds could change 10 seconds. 1 second can change your whole life, right? So take that second to think about the consequences, about everyone that's going to be affected, because it's more, I had to learn that it was more than just me. I didn't know that I was hurting my community. I didn't know I was hurting my mom and my sisters, because we thinking about us, right? I say take the time to think about people other than yourself, and 9 times out of 10, you'll make the right choice.
And I would say, in terms of other people thinking about returned citizens, I'm not totally sure of the question, but I'll just speak to that part. I invite everybody to just really let go of any preconceptions that we may have over anybody, be they a returned citizen or anybody really, and be open to meeting heart to heart in the moment. Let go of the mind, let go of, what the media tells you, and be alive to what's really there. And I think that's what I would say. That's my wisdom for the day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming to this discussion, or coming to the table to discuss this important topic. And I enjoyed it. Kristen, I thoroughly enjoyed your sharings, and am very inspired by the work that you're doing in the world. And Suraya, kudos to you with how you've been able to be sort of the mother figure, probably, it seems, to these men, and help them through their journey of awakening to their own person or own being. So thank you for your work as well.
Yes. Well, you all are really true inspirations. I appreciate you coming today and bringing so much wisdom and sharing with us in such an open fashion. It's just lovely.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for-
having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Great
Yes.
to take this time with you all. Thank you so much.